Kia ora o, welcome back. Today we are going to listen to one of the stories, the journeys that our Mama A or Mama A has shared with us. She's asked us to remain anonymous and I obviously respect that. But before we get into that, I guess because of the topics that we're going to cover, we wanted to ensure that we do this respectfully to their journey. So we're going to start with a karakia and then we'll end the episode with a karakia also. So ngā mihi to my brother, Wiri, for his contribution to the podcast with us. So, inoi tātou.
Kia tau iho ngā manaakitanga o te wāhi ngaro, kia tātou ngā pūkōrero, tai atu ki te hunga whakarongo. Mā rātau tātou e arahi, ia tātou e whai ngātahi nei i te māramatanga, i te oranga tonutanga mō tātou whānau. Haumi e, hui e, tāiki e.
Kia ora koutou. For those who haven't seen the first episode, we did a longer intro. I am B, Bianca. Mihi nui kia koutou for tuning in, listening in to my cousin Tessa and I. He uri ahau no te waka tainui, i te taha toku mama no Maunga Tautiri. And then i te taha toku papa no Rotorua ahau, no Te Aroa, te whānau Hoiapa.
Kia ora, my name is Tessa. Ki te taha toku papa no Tainui, ki te taha toku mama no Te Aroa. Ai.
Ngā mihi. So, we're going to get into our first journey. So come with us on this journey as we follow the path or the haerenga of our Mama A or Mama A. And we are going to start with the kōrero. So every episode will have the same structure. Start with their journey and then we'll stop, pause, reflect, kōrero, and then have a big kind of reflection of that journey and all the takings that Tessa and I took from that kōrero. And thank you again. You know who you guys are. We are here honouring you, your stories and platforming your journeys. And I am extremely thankful to you all for being vulnerable and brave. That's why I asked you. That's why you are mana wahine in my eyes. And this is just our opportunity to allow other people to hear a true, raw story of somebody I've been blessed to meet in my journeys also. And so, this is our sharing. So, kia ora Tessa.
Kia ora.
I, along with my amazing husband, are the proud parents of 3 wonderful kids. Miss A, who is 6, Master M, who is 4.5, and Master O, who is 2.5. My story has a bit of a backstory to help understand the complexity of my shitty committee. Miss A was 7 months old when we decided to try for our second child. We were thrilled and very fortunate that it happened quickly. We wanted kids close in age. Miss A's pregnancy was mostly uncomplicated, but I found the early postpartum period hard. And on reflection, I probably experienced some postpartum depression. My pregnancy with Master M was straightforward. I required a couple of extra scans. At the 20-week scan, there showed a slight discrepancy in baby's kidneys. However, at the follow-up scan, these were all within normal parameters. Also, my measurements weren't increasing as they expected. Miss A was 16 months old when I went into spontaneous labour and delivered Master M at 39 weeks, 5 days. He weighed 3.97 kilos, which is about 8 pounds, 12 ounces, and was a picture of health. After struggling with breastfeeding Miss A, I really wanted all the support I could get at the hospital before heading home to try to establish feeding and get back into a normal life with a busy toddler. During my stay, the hospital was short-staffed and they really wanted to send me home. A second-time mum who had a straightforward vaginal delivery, why was I still there? It was so hard having to advocate for myself and our family. The staff were verbally handing over incorrect information to the incoming shifts, and I was feeling let down. After 24 hours, Master M still had not passed meconium, his first poo. He was struggling to drink. We were expressing and syringe feeding him. He had a couple of decent vomits. The staff brushed it off as spills, post-feeds, but it was bright green and brown, and he hadn't been feeding much at all. And at times, it sounded like he was gagging, almost like he was aspirating. but still the staff wanted me to go home. At 36 hours, our LMC came to visit. Her colleague had delivered Master M, as our LMC wasn't on call over the weekend and had done the initial assessments. I was in the middle of expressing with the support and guidance of the hospital midwife. Our LMC and I were chatting, and I asked her, when do we get concerned about him not passing meconium yet? The hospital staff had told me it can be normal for no meconium for the first 48 hours, but I was getting worried. Our LMC exchanged a look with the hospital midwife, and I said, do what you need to do. Our LMC did a top-to-toe assessment and discovered that there was no anal opening. She let us know she would go and chat with the pediatricians and that she would be back. The pediatricians, along with a whole gaggle of intrigued junior doctors and interns, came in saying, I hear you have a slight concern and that it would be a little trip to Waikato to have a surgery to make an opening, and then we would come home after a few days and Master M would be all fixed. From there it was a whirlwind. Thankfully, Miss A was happy with my parents, but she thought we were bringing her new baby brother home in a day or two. We were whisked into SCBU, followed by a 2-hour ambulance trip to Waikato Hospital in ICU. My husband had to travel on his own in the dark and rain, stopping to try and find accommodation for the night. We met with an array of hospital staff. Some greeted us with compassion and kindness, others with inconvenience and frustration. Master M was scheduled for surgery at 7 in the morning. We were to be back on the ward by 6:45 to sign consents as we gave our brand new baby, who was now covered in probes, tubes and monitors, a pat goodbye. I was told I would need to pump or express every 3 to 4 hours if I was hoping to breastfeed. By the time we got back to the motel, it was after midnight. I wasn't even 48 hours postpartum, and I was already separated from my baby. This is not what I was expecting my newborn baby experience to be, especially after finding it so hard the first time around and really wanting to soak it all up this time as I knew how fast it goes. After Master M's surgery and multiple tests and scans, learning how to change a stoma bag on a newborn, teaching a newborn how to breastfeed after the NICU team has been tube feeding him expressed milk and not actually giving him a chance to be hungry enough to work on the breast. We were finally discharged from Waikato Hospital. Master M was 11 days old. My husband had 2 days left on his perinatal leave. It was not how we had hoped and planned this time together as a family to be. My husband leaves for work before 7 a.m. and isn't home till 5:30 at the earliest. They were long days. Miss A came home from her holiday at my parents' farm. A newborn with a surgical site and a stoma to care for and multiple appointments a fortnight. The stoma nurse, the outreach community nurses, the GP when Master M's skin would ulcerate, Plunkett, the surgical team, the lactation consultant. It was a lot. I struggled to leave the house in fear that the stoma bag would leak or I would have to attempt to change it in public, in fear of having to tell people everything was going well if they asked or got excited about a newborn, or worse, having to relive it all by sharing it with people. I felt isolated and alone. I felt resentful of people having well babies. Why did we have to go through this? Why did my body fail when I was pregnant? Master M also wasn't putting on enough weight. I felt like I was failing. I was very self-aware and had a lot of insight. I discussed these things with our LMC. She made 2 referrals, one to the maternal mental health team and one to the lactation consultant. The maternal mental health team took 3 weeks to call me to triage me. The nurse I spoke to said I didn't sound like I was doing well at all, and that it was her recommendation that I should be on medication. I said that I was open to that, but I also wanted some counselling or talking therapy to help me process everything and to give me some tools to cope. She said that they would be in contact. It took them another 2.5 weeks to reach out, and then another 2 weeks until they could see me. The referral to the lactation consultant was a saving grace. Thankfully, I had met her when Miss A had a tongue and lip tie. The Elsie was amazing. She sat with me. She supported me with feeding, but she also helped me access information like who Master M's paediatrician was, who to talk to about MRI results, and about the child disability allowance. I spoke to her about the MMH referral and that I was still waiting their input. She then told me about a woman who she would like to refer me to because she thought that she would be able to help and support me in the interim. I still am not really sure what her title or role was at work, but she was exceptional and got me through some really dark and overwhelming days and weeks. She would initially visit me once a week and then fortnightly, and these visits reduced as required. I remember telling her that I just need someone to have a cuppa with and a rants about everything and not feel guilty about complaining every time we caught up. She allowed me to feel those things, but she also challenged my thinking and gave me tools to process my thoughts. I would have days or weeks when life felt okay, and then I would be thrown a curveball, or Master M would require another hospital appointment or surgery, and I would spiral again. He had 7 general anesthetics in the first 12 months of his life. It was a lot for us all. It was hard having to logistically plan for both Master M and Miss A for every appointment. When I got discharged from her care and visits, it was hard, but I felt like I was in a much better place than I had been when we first met. My anxiety didn't feel as debilitating as it had, and I knew what I had to do if I had a relapse, to reach out to my support system, not to hide it away and feel like I have to suffer on my own. When we decided to try and have another baby, I knew I still had lots of work to do and I knew things had to change. I wanted to be the best mum I could be, and I didn't feel like that is who I was being. Master M had a pending spinal surgery, and I had a relapse. I had a sudden increase of intrusive thoughts, and so I reached out to my GP, who referred me to the community MH team. I started doing some CBT alongside talking therapy to help me recognize and acknowledge the emotions and intrusive thoughts I was having. In my first session, I was given the poem, The Guest House by Rumi, and it has really stuck with me. To greet my emotions like a guest and ask them what they've come to teach me today. A few other tools that have stuck with me are to treat myself with the kindness that we would show a good friend who is having a hard time, to prioritize even just 10 minutes of time for me. It's a mental health walk when life feels overwhelming, and to ensure that I have time with my husband to remind myself that I am a person outside of being a mum. After months of work, I remember having this conversation about resilience and stress buckets. I said I just need a bigger bucket, as there were certain stressors I knew I couldn't remove or palm off to anyone else. As I was driving to my next session, I was reflecting on the work I had done since the last session, and I had a clear revelation. My bucket is infinite because I have faith. Why had I been holding all these stresses as burdens when Scripture so clearly says, cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you? Through support, talking therapy, CBT time and faith, I was able to overcome my shitty committee. I still have to apply my tools daily, but it is so much more manageable when I know my warning signs and how to activate my support system. And so often my husband and I refer to the Guest House poem when I am needing to be grounded.
And that poem is, this being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of all its furniture. Still treat each guest honourably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. That is a big story. When she said that's a lot, there was a lot going on there for her. She is a mama I will never forget. She had a journey that was forced on her to all of a sudden be not just mama, and she really downplays that in this story. But she also became an overnight nurse. She had to. The realities of our system was that she needed to know how to do this stuff in case, for whatever reason, that team that she had around her couldn't be there, or she had to, you know, learn all these ways that she never expected to do. On top of some of the stuff she spoke about, like she said, the breastfeeding, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was a lot. It brings tears to my eyes still to this day of her journey, but so much mana with what her journey brought her. Yeah, I'd love your take on what you took from that. You know, what was the big things that stood out for you from her journey?
I think, yeah, definitely difficult times.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine that happening, and then having to step up and having a newborn, juggling a toddler.
Yeah.
Advocating for her and her family.
Yeah.
It just get that tiring.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
She's so graceful in how she explains it too, because, you know, she's understanding of the system pressures. I think she was very kind in how she explained all that. You know, to flag the point that so many people had seen her son during that first 24 hours, but nobody had picked up that he had no, essentially poo hole, is what she was saying.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, that kind of stuff. Like, I want to believe that that's not common. It probably is more common than I know. But she was somebody that came with a journey that I'd never encountered before.
And I think it's hard in general trying to advocate for yourself. For my second birth, we gave birth, it was midnight. We were out the next morning by 10.
By choice?
By choice, but also they also said, oh, well, this is your second birth, you know how it goes.
Okay.
If I was supported or encouraged to stay, I would have.
Okay.
Going home to then a newborn and a toddler, also navigating that, and not, you still have time with your newborn, but it's not, it's always
shared
time.
Yeah, of course. And I'm thinking also, like, you know, for both these scenarios, your one and this Mama A, you know, this toddler, first of all, I know for a fact that was the first time that toddler had been away from that period of time from her parents. So that would have been really hard for that toddler. We have to acknowledge that, right? And then she says this in her story, like, she then she was excited to see her baby brother. And then her baby brother came home with tubes and a lot of medical equipment that had to now be navigated. And so even that relationship was kind of not the way she wanted it to be, because like a toddler, they want to just
cuddle there.
And she would have had to be quite fairly overly protective, because a toddler might accidentally slip on the tube and it might come out. Like, it was just so much extra that she had to think about. You know, when she says, I think the wording was around, why was this happening to me? Why couldn't I have the normal birth or the pregnancy or the child, or almost like, why was this the journey that she was dealt with? I mean, that in itself is a question, and only those who have sick children will understand this to its entirety. But you feel ripped off.
And
then
you probably can relate to
it. I can, definitely. I mean, it makes me sad to think about it, because I still to this day see this mama. I see her every year at our Starship Christmas parties, because everybody in those buildings have sick children. And there is a lot of sick children. And we always give each other a hug. And I love seeing her face. She has a friendly face in those times. But, you know, to have a sick child, you know, especially, I think for her it was hard. I actually acknowledge it was harder. It would have been harder, because she knew what a normal birth was like. She knew what a normal journey, and I say normal only in the sense of the first child wasn't sick. So I say that very fluidly. But she knew what the comparison was. So she knew the happy story and she knew the hard journey. For me, it's a little bit different. I didn't have another child prior, so all I've ever had is a sick child. But to believe and not know that your child is sick till they're out, it's hard. And then all of a sudden, there is now a team around them. And whilst you're thankful for that team, it feels very isolating because that team is the baby's team. She talks about the pediatricians, the nurses, the respiratory teams, the surgical team, the district nurses, the LMC, the maternal mental health team that came in the fold. There's a lot of people around that baby, and you're thankful for that because they physically, medically need that.
But where's the support for her?
Yeah. I mean, why are we not surprised she spiraled? Like, who wouldn't spiral in that? Because it's a bit like, hi, I'm over here. Like,
and she's getting met with new challenges that she hasn't experienced before.
Yeah.
So is she just expected to
know this and do it and be okay with it
from these new challenges? Or
it's a hard space because she had to, like I said, become a nurse overnight to help her son, to be part of the team, the medical team. Really, you're a part of that team.
To be his security guard.
Be his security guard, when all she really wanted to do was be his mama, and she didn't get to be that.
And then manage her family.
And then still manage, like, what'd she say? Like, by the time they got home, her husband only had a day or two left of his leave. Like, and she was doing long days. And I'm telling you now, when you have a sick child, those days are longer than the average hours. Like, you can feel the weight of them. You are hypervigilant. You are watching them at every time. She's also got a toddler who would expect her mama to be, the normal stuff. Playing puzzles, reading books.
But at that stage, she was still really young too, like under 2. So trying to communicate with a young toddler
about the realities of how this has to be. Yeah, she to be honest, she navigated herself with so much mana for as long as she did, figuring she was on waiting lists, and our system, just like most of our health systems, they're stretched, right? And so there was waiting. So she talks about how long she had to wait. And I'm just thankful that I guess the LMC thought to go about another way to kind of connect her with somebody for the interim. But I am, she's always been a mana wahine to me. She will always remain one. She's super strong. And she really, like, I wanted to make a note, her husband was a huge pillar in this. Yes, he worked long hours, but that's because of, he had to run the business. And would he have wanted to be home with her? Of course. Like, he would have known how hard that life would have been for her at home for those hours. But she did it. Yeah. She's here. She's here to tell the story. She walks around with a beautiful smile on her face when I see her. She didn't cave. She stepped up. When you have a sick kid, it doesn't even become an option. It's like, I have to step up. Would I have wanted differently for her? Absolutely. Would I have wanted differently for me? Absolutely. Do I envy my siblings who have healthy children? Do I envy my cousins who have healthy children? Absolutely. But what she says, I wholeheartedly believe with her, is that we can't help but look at this journey as a lesson or as a wero. I look at it as a wero. And she talks about faith, and she quoted the verse in the Bible around, leaning on God and trusting that, and the poem itself alludes to that also by Rumi, that talks about, taking this as a lesson, acknowledging anyone who comes to your door. So she's acknowledging that she is faced with a sick child. Would she have wanted differently? Absolutely. But that's not her reality. And so she did what she could, and she did the best she could, and she's so strong. Could she have done this without the CBT? Absolutely. Could she have absolutely done this without my input? I 100% agree. That I believe wholeheartedly. Could she believe that at the time? No. And to this day, she's kind enough to probably say she needed all those people, but I saw her strength. Really, for a big part of it, I was just sitting there validating her struggles. You know, we sat and had tea together many times. We did puzzles together. We did a lot of whatever just made her feel better. And it was a pleasure to be with her on this journey. I wish that her journey had been easier for her and had been different. But the mana she has to take it as a journey of learning was beautiful. And yeah, she will always remain a dear friend. Yeah, so I think, you know, this is an important topic because there are lots of families who they don't get the journey they wanted, you know. They are dealt with some hard blows. I've met a lot of families along the way. You know, we live in Maketu for a reason, you know this. We live there because his team, son's team, suggested to live by the sea. It'll help him. And after close to 25 hospitalizations for Nico, we had to take our chances, right? You're told that by a pediatrician. What am I supposed to say? Oh, no, sorry, I got to stay in this town because I work here. Like, that's selfish.
And what do you mean by the sea? What does the sea?
In particular for son, he's got a respiratory condition that comes quite commonly with babies who are premature, and he was very premature. And so, yeah, the sea air is a different quality of air. It's a salt air. It dries, so people may or may not realize this, but the air, when you breathe it in, it dries. It's a drier air. Whereas the air that we get to breathe here in Rotorua, it's sulfur air, it's moist air because it's coming off the ngafa. And so here we have a team, his team, gave me evidence because I'm the type who needs evidence, and I know you know that. I needed the evidence before I would even consider the move. Did I want to move? No, because I was moving away from my family. I was moving away from my job. I was moving away from what would have been Nico's school and stuff like that. But at the same time, their health overrides everything, eh? And I didn't want the hospital life for him. He deserved more than that. And so I moved for him. Am I thankful I moved? 100%. If you haven't been to Maketu, you have to go. It's a place of wairua. It gave both me strength that I needed. I didn't actually know I needed, but I realise it now, I needed it. It gave Nico a healthier air. And it's given both of us a quality of life that we just weren't having. Because like Mama A alludes, when you have a whole team who's part of their journey, you feel like you're a spectator and he's the show, or Master A's the show in this instance, and you are just at the background. And yeah, there's you pretty much have to go with what they say. That's a really hard space to navigate, because you have to be, like you said, you have to advocate for your child, you have to advocate for yourself. It's just a lot. It's like I'm his lawyer. I mean, you know about that, and it's a lot. That's a lot of extra, and that can be hard because sometimes your viewpoints as a mama, like you know your child, right, maybe isn't what the doctors see because they only see snippets of him, usually also when he's unwell. So it's also a really hard space to navigate if you want to be a certain mama or raise him in a certain way, but the doctors are insisting. And they come with all their medical knowledge, which they have, and I appreciate they've got it. But where then does my journey come into this? Where does what I want for my son come into this? And I know this mama has to navigate that too. Anybody who's got a sick child has to navigate that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, you know, that's a hard journey. It's actually a sad one because this isn't going to change for her. It doesn't change for somebody who's a mother of a chronically sick child. This is always going to be your journey. I'm proud of her for choosing to, decide to have another child, she's stronger than me. I stopped at 1. And would I have wanted more children? Absolutely. But our reality, or the reality of a mother or father of a sick child, is that you have to weigh up the options. And the options are, do I have another child at the risk of them also being sick? Then you have 2 sick children who have untold doctor's appointments, hospital clinics, CT scans, MRI scans, blood scans. Like, that is all a lot, logistically. And at the best case scenario, I have a child who's not sick. I feel for that child, because that child has to come with me and his or her older brother, to these appointments. Or if he's in hospital, I now have another child. I have to work out what to do with that child. And Miss A, the story of Mama A, she talks about how hard that is to navigate when you have to think, okay, is my toddler okay? At the same time as who's going to be here for the surgery? Like, it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So, I have so much respect for her in so many ways. So much aroha for her. The tools that she talked about, we need to stay true to them. And she talks about faith. She talks about
Talk therapy.
Talk therapy helped her.
What would you say talk therapy is?
Any type of therapy that they're allowing you to offload, and you have somebody who's holding space for you, like validating, listening. Like, actually, that's actually hard. I get it. And allow her to cry with her if you need to, but, hold space for her and be with her in those moments, because there's also that element of, she needed to have time to mourn the life she didn't get to have, and I'm just going to bring in for a second, I have spoken with these stories with some people that I am still very much close with. One of them being our old doctor, Dr. Armstrong. So he's actually given a little piece of advice here. He talks about the need for this mama or mamas who have sick children, or parents who have sick children. They need to be intentional about having that time to grieve the journey that they didn't get to have. They literally have to sit down and cry about the fact that she wishes she had it differently. And that's her right to feel that way, because that is a shitty deal. Heck, that's unfair. That's, why me? She said, why did my body fail? So she really owned that, even though her body didn't fail. I mean, heck, could her body have done differently so that he was born with this part? But I get why she defaulted to that. I have asked many a times, docs, why did this happen? Why was my son born like this? Was it something I did? Was it something I didn't do?
Was it something I could have prevented?
Yeah. And I think just in general, Tess, like, we all want to know the whakapapa of something. We want to know the why. I want to believe men and women feel the same way, but I know I definitely always want to know the why. Why did this happen? Why did this happen for her? Why did this happen for my son? Why does this happen for other kids? Could I do anything different? At the end of the day, even if somebody gave you the answer to that, you can't change it, right? It is what it is. I mean, even that alone, it is what it is. I hate actually saying it, because that's my way of palming off how heavy it actually is. Mainly because you don't have the words to explain it otherwise. So you downplay it and you're like, it's all good, it is what it is. That's my way of, I can't talk about that, So I wanted to highlight the story, because that shitty committee gender of having a sick child will always be in her mind. Yeah. But I agree with Dr. Armstrong, you have to mourn what you didn't get to have and be okay to do that. And only then can you then face the challenges like she's doing of, it's just shitty deal, but I'm doing the bloody best I can be doing. And I'm so thankful she has a strong faith in her religion, because when you have situations, it is. I'm not gonna lie, I never acknowledged God until I had son. And I remember when he was in ICU at 4 months, I remember turning to the nurse that was sitting next to me, And I said to her, do you pray? And she goes, no, sorry, I'm an atheist. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, I don't believe in God. And I was like, oh, okay. She goes, do you pray? And I'm like, to be honest, no, but I feel I need to. And I said to her, can you pray with me? And she goes, okay, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, that's okay. So I said, can you kneel with me? I guess in my mind, I just thought that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I remember that's what you see on when you see things, so and pictures or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And we both didn't know what we were doing. And we got down on our knees, and I'll be really honest with you. I just said, God, I'm sorry I'm asking right now, but I don't actually know what I'm doing. But if you help my son pull through this, I promise that I will go to church. I promise that I will be better and believe and pray more and learn how to pray. But I need your help. I need something. And he pulled through. And it's the reason why I have a relationship with God now. I had done 32 years of my life without a relationship with God. But when you are faced with the most important thing in your world, possibly leaving this world, you are forced to find a bigger power. And that's why I believe, that's why we pray, that's why we worship, that's why we will travel back 45 minutes to go to church, because I made a pact with God and deal, and he saw through his end. And I'm very thankful for that. And so I'm proud and thankful that she also raises that, as that is her way of silencing, is through her faith. So yeah.
She also said CBT. What is CBT?
So it's, the name of it means cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's just really the idea of like, what is it that her mind's telling her that makes her act a certain way? And then what behaviors can she change in the hope that she feels better? For example, she talks about going for walks and how mental health walks, she called them. And allowing herself, giving herself grace to go and have a 10-minute walk and be okay with that, and don't feel guilty that she's had to pop out for a walk. So kind of giving herself more tools to be able to challenge her thinking, and do different behaviors to make herself feel better. And she talked about her husband, and I think that's huge in this instance. Her husband was a pillar of strength for her. So yeah, I'm super thankful. That was a heavy topic, I understand it. If anything that was brought up today has made you choke up a little bit like me, then, you know, please reach out to those services in your community. If you ever need people to talk to, everybody in New Zealand has 1737 that's manned by therapists, psychologists, doctors. You can text it, you can call it. They're always there to help, and they will be the ones that you could use as a guidance on who you could be connecting up with, where you, depending on where you live. And if you are on this journey, and if you understand the journey that was brought up today, and you are doing things that help you silence your shitty committee, reach out to us. You know, email us on silencingthesc@gmail.com. Let us know how you quieten your shitty committee, if this is part of your journey, a sick child is part of your journey. Because we'd love to talk about those, highlight them, and if you need support in that space, I can help out too. So please, you know, let us know, because we know this is the journey for many, many, many other whānau. But yeah, ngā mihi Tess, that was a big read. Ngā mihi to you, Mama A, you know who you are. Very proud of you always. Yeah, for sharing your story. Very hard story, big story. And I'm just going to end us with a karakia.
Ka hiki nei konei te taumaha o nei kōrero. Kia mau ko ngā hua ki o tātou hirikapo, kia wā te a tātou a hinengaro a tinana a ngākau a wairua i te ara takatū, haumi e hui e, tā iki e.